Ladies and gentlemen, panelists, thanks a lot for being here. Uh, now, supply chain in India has always been has got a lot of attention in the recent past, right? Now, we all know, if you do some research, we all know that India's supply chain ecosystem is fairly inefficient. The cost to serve in India is close to 15%. Globally, it's in single digits. It's a fragmented market, fragmented supply. So problems are there. But advancements in technology, advancements in thinking of how to solve some of these problems, and a lot of new age companies, I think, are doing fabulous work in solving supply chain using technology the Indian way. And maybe through this panel, we will try to uncover some of those aspects over the next 30 minutes. So my first question is to a business which perhaps faces a lot of heat across customers, right? Now, as Delhivery, you service customers who are large, who may operate 100 stores. You may also be servicing a startup which is having operations only in one market in India. And the question I want to ask is, when you service a whole plethora of customers and using 3PL or as an operating model, how do you use technology to solve and deliver efficiency for them?
Sure, thanks, Viswanath. So, Delhivery's backbone is technology, where we try to position ourselves, and we've built ourselves as a differentiator in the industry of how we use tech to drive, whether it is from first mile, mid mile, last mile, how we accept orders. So we operate at a very big scale. We're close to 2 billion orders that we've done in our lifetime. Right from the way of accepting orders, whether it is on routing the closest center for a pickup, the algorithms are used, right? We started using machine learning way before it's popular in the last few years, right? So whether it is around determining tools that will say that what route should a person, the field executive, go when he picks the dispatch bag of 50 to 60 shipments, as opposed to what the industry does at 30 to 40 shipments within a single circuit route. So we have planners over there. We have algorithms that tell us exactly our mid-mile routing through large hubs, which are, we have large central mesh network hubs. A Tauru hub in Gurgaon, for example, is 5 lakh square feet. The Bangalore one is 2.5 lakh square feet. These are huge hubs. Now, we also have smaller hubs. How do you have a truck which is going through a state that's going through elections? How do we bypass that and take a different route? All of that is dynamic. So we've sort of brought in the chaos of India into our way of thinking and how our tech has been built. So we understand it's dynamic. It's not fixed and static throughout the year. How do you handle Durga Puja in Kolkata, for example, right? Or how do you handle the labor shortage in Hyderabad? Tech factors in all of that. So it's just part of what we do.
Right. So, and from there, maybe I'll go to two of the fairly established businesses, and before I start grilling the D2C companies here. Now, Kama Ayurveda, right? And Colonel, you started off as a physical store, went online, today you're omnichannel. What are the top 3 challenges you faced when you set up a supply chain servicing multiple channels? And how did you use technology to solve it?
Sure, I think that's a very interesting thought, and I was telling the panel and Viswanath that the 2 most aggressively used terms today in retail are omnichannel and sustainability. And it is very, very pertinent and very an urgent need for us to break it down into simplistic actions which we need to take right from the end of the business till the final follow-through of the operations for them to translate into very, very clearly actionable elements which will support the business and finally lend a lot of impetus to the revenue. And as he very clearly mentioned, for omnichannel, what I feel for omnichannel to take place, and this is very synonymous with COVID, that's when businesses started to talk omni-channel. The first and foremost action is the business has to, in its fabric, start to think omni-channel. The own .com, the own retail store, the marketplaces, the business leads have to own them and understand that they have to have a very uniform pitch. The experience has to be uniform, and then it further translates to a very, very effective omni-channel strategy. And in implementing that strategy, where I think me and my teams have a job to do is, in the aspect of being able to deliver through retail outlets, if you want to, like, for an example, we were discussing that for a brand like Kama to be able to deliver effectively on its .com, it is common sense that it is able to utilize its own retail outlets, which are spread across 25 odd cities in the country, rather than go and look for establishing either warehouses or partners with 3PL. Of course, 3PLs will lead the way, but it is very, very pertinent and important that your own stores, and I take you back to the quiz where it was asked that what is that space called where a pure e-commerce delivery it's done, and everybody, the term used is dark stores. So dark stores are very, very good, but before dark stores, it is very important that through technology, we use our own real estate, which we pay for, to be able to target the end user closest geographically on the pin code. And that only happens if your ERP, your POS systems, and the Magento or whatever the website is based on are very, very seamlessly integrated, and that's how tech plays a very important role.
Yeah, thanks. I'll also switch a similar question, right? As Clear Deco, you operate a lot of outlets in tier 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. And therefore, there's a challenge on what your supply chain should deliver. So how have you looked at the problem and used technology in supply chain?
So when we talk about remote areas, specifically tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, in fact, we have stores within villages as well. So last mile logistics is a big concern, and it's not easy to solve, for sure. And especially for our product category, which is completely customized product category, the turnaround time is one of the specific factors. Now, how do we mitigate that is, so we have a TAT for each and different category of products. So for example, let's say we want to make stock powers, which are basic prescription eyeglasses for, let's say, 50 to 60% of the population. Now for that, we need to deliver within 2 days. Now from the warehouse to the end customer delivery, so we need to track each movement. And that is where our CRMs, our entire systems need to play the role where they keep updating us where the orders are. We are already partner with Delhivery, and we are using their dashboards as well in order to track our orders, whether they are getting delayed or not. The other aspect in terms of especially retail is what kind of inventory is moving and not moving, and accordingly from the back-end supply chain, whether the fulfillment rate is equivalent to that or not. So for example, there has been a new shift in our kind of product category is, usually people used to wear glasses who required prescription, who have power issues, right? 11% of our orders are coming from people who do not require eyeglasses, and they are wearing eyeglasses because it's more fashion statement. So for those 11% people, we don't need lenses because prescription is not required, but we need frames. So what we are trying to do is that we are to again work on our numbers, that how many SKUs do we have for specific such categories, and do we need to really emphasize on turnaround times again for this category, or we need to reduce them, and then again last mile logistics. So I think all the data which we are capturing from each retail unit is very, very significant in terms in order to smoothen the process and make it more efficient.
Got it. Thanks. On that sustainability front, right? And yours is a business where the main value proposition is sustainability, sustainable products. So how are you using technology to assure customers that whatever you're supplying through your stores or online store is sustainably sourced, manufactured, and delivered?
So when we talk about sustainability, it's primarily about marrying ethical, cultural, and the social values. So even before technology, I would like to harp on what really it means when it comes to circularity in the supply chain. So we're talking about sourcing the raw material from a credible source. You're talking about the impact that this has when it comes to manufacturing on the environment, on the people, and eventually how it promotes a product which brings about a change in the society. So when it comes to us, we make very sophisticated accessories from plant-based materials, like we use cork and we use banana bark. And we source from manufacturers who have a valid certification for it. For a banana bark, we work directly with rural artisans. And that again empowers them, that provides them the requisite amount of income. So in that way, our supply chain is formulated to create a very clean product which gives back to the society. Now, when it comes to technology, there is a lot of discussion about traceability because that's where the word comes from. That's where sustainability starts from. The entire angle of sustainability started because there was no traceability for the products that we are using or we are wearing. So, for example, in the movie Blood Diamond, conflict diamonds. So, consumer today is demanding where is this coming from? What is the source for it? And that's where traceability becomes an important part of technology. And this is now interpreted through the use of blockchain, where the entire journey of the product from the raw material to the consumer and how it shakes hands with another consumer is being mapped. So today, from where we are right now, we are working on our supply chain, building, because it's an innovative product. So right now we are building the entire supply chain with manufacturers. We are looking at solutions where we can technically implement the traceability aspect using blockchain, but that's going to take a while because there are a lot of aspects to be considered, considering that most of it is in a very nascent state, especially when it comes to the vendors.
Got it. Now, with that, I'm going to turn the table and ask two very different businesses from the rest of the gang, right? One, MISSFIT, and hats off. MISSFIT, you have just started your corporate journey. And therefore, you are in that evolution where, as somebody said, you don't have deep past data.
Right.
So how do you look at technology and supply chain as you scale up?
So this year we are available in retail store as well. We are available in Bombay and Delhi in Crep Dog. So what we've realized is that we need some sort of technology to really bring in all the consumer data together and personalizing the consumer experience, and also, like Jasjeev said, to maintain a common customer experience, consumer experience throughout all channels. That's something that we are aiming to do. And I think we were pretty naive when we were starting off because we didn't really have any consumer data, and that was not something that we were extremely particular about at that point. But I think now, in terms of even the size range, because with MISSFIT we want to cater to all women in India, all different sizes, body shapes, all of that. So all our R&D has been done based on Indian bodies. So I think even, how many pieces do we need in one size? So that's something that we will be using technology to use as well, to find out as well, and get more details as per, to get the right inventory, because we don't want to be producing a lot of inventory that is not going to be utilized, there are particular sizes that move a lot faster than the rest of the sizes. So there's a lot of these smaller things, and also to ensure consumer experience to be unified, we're going to be using a lot more. But to answer your question, we haven't really been using anything till now. But moving forward, as we scale up and increase our inventory as well, this is something that we are focusing on in the coming year.
All right. And maybe the same question to you, Ananya, how do you look at use of technology as you scale up?
I don't know. Thank you. So, while my panelist was talking, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and one answer, one thought that was in my brain is optimization of resources. For any brand, whether it's offline or whether it's a D2C brand, all we're fighting for here is optimization of our resources, whether it's inventory, whether it's space, and the right allocation of that. And that can only happen through technology. At the most, the kind of inventory that we keep, we're a D2C brand, and we're at the moment only on e-commerce portals, marketplace portals, and we have our own website. In the initial stage, when we started out our brand, we thought, oh, maybe we have to allocate separate inventory for marketplaces, and we have to allocate separate inventory for our own website. And there is a software that enables us to keep all that inventory on that particular integration, and whatever is sold is automatically updated across all portals. So the problem was mine, but it was solved by another service provider who was providing this technology. So moving on, for all D2C brands, I think the challenge will always remain the same. We're trying our best to work on a traditional retail model, which is you forecast your inventory, you create that inventory lot, you stock up the inventory in products which don't sell well, are discounted, and then the new cycle turns again. So every season you are left with a lot of products which are probably not sold and then discounted, and then there is excess stocks left. Only technology can solve that problem for us, and how that can be enabled is by understanding what needs to be made. While this, before this panel discussion, we were just reading I was reading on the screen how you can manage your time and supply chain. It's a very crucial scenario, because today, if I have to make any particular consignment for my own company, it takes about 30 to 45 days to get the production ready. So how am I supposed to channelize each and every individual's requirement immediately? It's always going to be a problem. How do you manage your assembly line versus personalization, and how do you optimize those resources? So I think technology can play a role. Brands like Nike have been able to do that, where they say that you can customize your shoe and we'll deliver it to you in a week. So if they could do it, and of course there's a lot of machine learning that probably goes in it, and big brands have that capacity to invest. So coming back to your question, I feel it's the job of these technology providers to learn about us and offer us solutions. At the most, this is how any retail works. You have to make your inventory, you have to forecast what the product needs to be, and you have to stock it up. Whether you keep it in a warehouse, whether you keep it in your store, whether you keep it in your factory, it needs a place to sit. It cannot be sitting on a digital front, and it cannot be made immediately. So the challenge is always going to be there of supply chain, and how do you manage this problem of personalization, where we need to understand that every customer has their unique requirement, and they want, if I want this green shirt, the manufacturer cannot make it for me in 24 hours. If they can make it in 24, it's the technology provider that has to enable them in such a way that, okay, we've done learning that so many orders come from green shirts, you need to keep this much inventory of the green fabric. If that fabric is ready, the pattern is ready, yes, maybe not in 2 days, it can be made in 1 week. But again, you cannot achieve economies of scale. So we're always going to be in this fight. It's going to be a long lifetime journey. I feel it's just not me, it's not Zara, it's not any D2C brand. We are all in the same fight, that how do you optimize your resources. So at the most, what we can do is we do data analysis, and we collaborate with a lot of technology platforms to at least use things like my panelist was suggesting here, that they have not invested in other warehouses. They're using Omnichannel strategy, where they're online and they're using their own stores to ship those goods out. So at the most, I feel that that's what any organization can do. Thank you.
Perfect. I think one last round of questions. All of you are business leaders, right? For the coming year or 18 months, if you were to go sit with your supply chain head or your operations head, and you sit with your technology guy, now I'm aware that in some organizations you have a CIO, you also have a CDO, right? What would be those 3 areas or 2 areas which you would want supply chain and technology to solve for you, right? Given your business context, and maybe we can just do a start from there to go here. So what would be those 2 areas as a business manager, if you were to sit with your supply chain guy and the technology guy, you're going to tell solve these two things for me in the next 12 months, what would that be?
I think that's a great question, and these are two verticals which need to be absolutely integrated together. And the two things I would ask my tech and the supply chain people to solve is how flexible how much of flexibility, and this I take it from the last session also, how much of flexibility can you lend to each of the sales channel to amend their forecasts till as late as when you go into production? Because the closer you get there, the more accurate your forecast accuracy would be. Classically now, every supply chain lead says your forecast accuracy should be 90 days, 60 days, whatever nature of products. The catch is how late can the forecast accuracy keep getting reviewed, reiterated, and postponed till the last mile, because that is what will lend you to be supremely optimal in that manner. I think that, so therefore, the time lag or the flexibility in forecasting accuracy is one thing, and secondly, how well can we make the IT and the supply chain to be an equal partner in the business, for them to be situationally aware as to which channel is the business growing, what are the plans, how are the NPDs coming in, what impact of a particular NPD is going to lead to cannibalizing of another product, and such like things, because then those redundancies could be built in. So I think these are my two takes.
Perfect, thank you.
I think what we need to understand and what probably the future should be is about mass customization. Everybody talks about customization, and when we talk about customization, largely a lot of luxury and bespoke companies come to mind, or brands come to mind, and that has a very huge cost, because we know when one garment is being made, it has a higher cost vis-a-vis probably 100 garments being made in a production line, in terms of fabric quality, in terms of hours being put, all of those things are there. So how do retail brands configure mass customization is something that we all need to sit across. And I was thinking of this another brand, it's a denim wear company, and they were able to do that with their jeans. You know, they say that, okay, you specify what size you want of your length, the waist, but still then there is not huge opportunity to customize. It's a very basic, option given just for your, but still it's configuring to your fits. So one level at a time, I think I think this subject has to be largely discussed with manufacturers and tech companies. Brands are just the mediators. We are just the ones facing this challenge, but it has to be combined with all the data analytics that a manufacturing company has, and then a tech company can probably enable them. And that's how we can proceed further. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Maybe I'll...
Yeah, so I think if you're saying what are everybody talking about for the next 1 or 2 years, as brands grow larger, I see that stitching together various functions needs to be a very big priority. I'll try and give a few examples. Does your marketing team know that the digital ad spend done on Facebook for a particular age demographic has suddenly spiked your RTO rates, where you have more number of COD orders in certain tier 2, tier 3 places? That stitching together of supply chain and marketing. Does your e-commerce checkout page ensure that you're taking back data from your repeat customers to cross-sell and also verify whether their address is correct? Do you have, does your production department take data from your return data to see what sizes are usually at the end done after a cycle of 2 or 3 shipments when it comes to online? So I think the stitching of data and functions talking together is something at the top of mind of most brand CEOs, that lack of visibility where supply chain is working on its own silo, marketing is working on its own silo in production, and tech bringing that together overall. And then within supply chain, obviously there is a ton being talked about. Like we said, omnichannel, like are you using the same inventory across all your channels, or are you bifurcating it? Are you doing it at a profitable level? Unit economics is, given the economic scenario, I think unit economics is on top of everybody's mind. So yeah.
Thank you.
So, Viswanath, you actually started off the panel by talking about the efficiency in the supply chain. So I think that's one major thing in terms of the delays and, the timelines that are followed, whether it's with manufacturing and marketing, like everything gets messed up. So I think in terms of that, to use technology to manage the entire process and to be aware, like also, to know like all the teams are aware, like this is going on, this is going on. So at different times to be efficient and to manage the entire inventory properly.
Okay.
From our business perspective, if I'll sit with the teams, I'll tell in terms of troubleshooting, in terms of customer returns, where the order is not properly fitted to the customer, whether do we have inventory lined up immediately to serve them. Sometimes what happens, not sometimes, in fact, 70% of the times the inventory is short, and then we have to arrange the same inventory somewhere because that particular location does not have enough SKUs. From retail perspective, we cannot have too much of inventory at the store, otherwise it goes into idle. So, so that is fulfillment. That is real-time fulfillment in terms of returns or troubleshooting issues. So I would obviously want to gather the data. One, that how many returns, are we capping the returns to 1% of the total orders, and whether the supply chain department at the back or the warehousing department at the back is maintaining accordingly SKUs to fulfill those demands or not.
Okay.
Well, for us, in our line of business, we also look at supply chain right from the design stage because we implement circular design. So right from how the resources are implemented in your design stage and how that affects the entire chain. So how do we optimize our resources better to create a design which is very unique for the consumer and at the same time is leveraging all the right touch points within what we have to offer? That's one. Secondly, the demand forecasting, obviously, because without that, everything else will just fall low. So how do we stitch together all these things and put together a very uniform practice which can help all the teams to have the right kind of intervention?
Perfect. I think it's great having such a diverse panel, right? And what supply chain and technology has to deliver, obviously, you heard varies from sector to sector. But if you were to just take the common themes, it's very clear. I mean, almost everyone spoke about is relevant data transparent across the different silos, right? Marketing to inventory, inventory to circular, or procurement, or in your case, the customer tax. That's number one. Number two, I think uniformly what I also hear is that problem with demand sensing, and it is but apt. We had the session after, a session which talked about saying how the basic assumptions of demand sensing are going wrong. Right? And I think we cannot but avoid saying that most of our companies will run multiple systems. We are not running away from the fact. Therefore, multiple data lakes. We are not running away from the fact. But the winner is where the organization is able to stitch relevant data and analysis to all the stakeholders and expedite decision making. Right? And with that note, maybe I'll thank all the panelists, thank Images Group. It's been lovely having you and stopping all of you from having lunch. So, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.